I step into the shower and I flip the nozzle on, and that's the last thing I remember. Between the time I fell to the time I was in surgery over in Rowlett to put a stent in, it was 45 minutes, and my heart had stopped 5 times.
Welcome back to Counter Calls, everybody. Today we have an awesome guest, Rob Vaughn. He is the founder of the Christian Wrestling Federation, a devout Christian, awesome father and husband. Rob, thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on today.
And a cool haircut.
Let's
just get it out. Let's just say it, right?
There you go. Thank you.
That's
At my age, for me to still have hair and can be able to do something with, man, I'm max it out.
Man.
I love
max it out.
Come on. I love it.
Rob, you've got a story that a lot of people don't have. What'll make a heart attack? Let's jump into it.
Well, I've been an athlete, been wrestling for 25 years. And during my 30s, I wanted to get as big as I could because I was only about 200, 210, and I wanted to try to get as big as I could. And I did. I made it big enough to where I traveled with the power team for a while.
Okay, cool.
I hit that.
I remember the power team.
The guys that would rip the
break
phone
stuff.
books
Yeah,
and stuff.
I did that. I had to get to
days.
250 to travel with them, so I made it to 250, and then from there it just through my 30s.
There you go. Look, there you are.
It just spiraled, and I just got bigger and bigger. Look at that. I mean, so anyways, I looked up and I was 40 years old and weighed 320 pounds.
Wow.
And I was miserable. And I went to the doctor and he said, man, you're going to have a heart attack if you do not drop all this weight. So I did have weight loss surgery. I went and had the gastric bypass, lost 130 pounds. I got down below 200. I was too thin. And so I gained it back, some of it back. And I've been right around 200 to 210 all these years, but the damage was already done, man. I ate horrible during those years to try to keep that weight on, and so my Widowmaker was 100% blocked. But I had no knowledge, no signs, no symptoms, nothing. And one night, June 12th, 2021, we are wrestling out here in the Rockwall Fate area, and after the show that night, we go to eat at Snuffers, and after we finish eating, I'm taking Rock, my youngest, over to a friend's house in Heath, and God timed it out perfect because I dropped Rock off, and as I'm leaving the house and driving back to the neighborhood, all of a sudden start sweating profusely. I can't catch my breath, so I called Beth and I said, man, something's going on. I said, I don't feel good. And she said, just stay on the phone with me until you get home. So we had just moved out of our big house. We had a big house we raised all the kids in, and we only had one at home now because our third one had just graduated from Heritage and was fixing to go to Baylor. And so she was just home for the summer. So we moved into this little small rent house in downtown Rockwall just until we were going to find our next house. And we were just planning on being there for a few months. And I walk in the door and Beth's like, holy cow, you look horrible. And I said, I just want to go take a shower and go to bed. I walk in there and drop my bag down. We had this little tiny rent house, little tiny shower in the back bedroom. And my daughter was home that night, just graduated from high school because she was home for the summer, before she went to Baylor. I go in there and I step into the shower and I flip the nozzle on. And that's the last thing I remember. I guess as soon as I'm stepping out of the shower, I flip the nozzle up, I fell back and hit the wall, the door. Beth hears it. She runs over there. She's trying to get the door open. She can't.
Oh, like up against the door?
I'm up against the door.
So you're laid up against the door in
the bathroom. No lie, the bathroom is the size of this table right here, and then the shower is right here. She's trying to push the door open, and she gets the door open. She climbs up over the sink and gets down in there. She pulls me flat, and she just starts CPR immediately. She's yelling at our daughter and saying, call 911. She said, I had no pulse and wasn't breathing. My lips were turning blue. I was gray. My eyes were going different directions. And there was a cop at the end of the street who had just turned on patrolling, got the call, zoomed right down to our house, came in, got the door open, pulled me into the bedroom, continued CPR. EMS was in there about 3 minutes later. And so they got Beth and Brooke out into the kitchen. And this house is tiny. They could not even get a gurney in the house. They carried me out in a sheet.
Oh
and so
God.
I know.
Wow.
They had to carry me out in a sheet outside to get me onto the gurney. So between the time I fell to the time I was in surgery over in Rowlett to put a stent in, it was 45 minutes. And my heart had stopped 5 times. And so they keep having to put the paddles on me and restart it. Of course, I had no knowledge of anything. I woke up Tuesday morning, about 4 a.m, hooked up to all this stuff going, what's going on?
What happened?
Why did my chest hurt so bad?
Oh
you know?
God.
Wow, man.
So over 50 people had hands on me that night, from Beth to the officer, EMS, firemen, doctors, nurses. And about a month after I recovered, they had a big luncheon and they walked through. They called it the perfect save. And we were like, and they were the godliest people. It was God's perfect save.
God, I love that.
And so they walked it. And so they use that as an example now when they are doing training and stuff for all those people. And so I made it through. It was a hard recovery, man. It took a lot out of me. They said less than 10% of people survive the Widowmaker.
I was going to say a lot of people don't survive it.
And then they said less than 1% who survive it do not have any, physical or mental damage, which Beth says I have some mental damage, but it's debatable. But I set out almost a year. Then I went back to wrestling and got back in the ring. And I probably did about 12, 15 matches. Yeah. And then before I finally, called it. So I'm here.
Wow, man. Praise God. That is an incredible story. How did that change your perspective on life and faith and the time that you have here on earth?
Exactly.
The most valuable commodity, time.
Well, Beth and I are not people to sit around anyways. And so we are always active, always involved in ministry, always on the go. But I now know that, I don't pass up any conversations. I don't have any filters anymore about, I don't want to say anything to them. I don't want to offend them, but you know what? If I don't offend you, you may spend eternity in hell if I don't tell you about, at least, plant a seed about Jesus. And so I talk to everybody now, and God has put me in great positions now in some of the work I've done and some of the places I've been to where I am constantly in front of somebody all the time where I can say so. So I don't pass up any opportunities anymore.
Yeah. Man, insane. When you recover from a thing like this, do doctors give you any orders of like, hey, like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be eating this, you shouldn't be wrestling? I assume not, because you were kind of back at it. I mean, is there like a laundry list of things to kind of?
I had the coolest cardiologist, man. He's over in Sunnyvale, and he was there that night, and he told me, he said, "You do what your body tells you can do."
Wow.
And,
okay.
And so that's been great advice, because I can't lift like I used to. I can't do cardio like I used to.
Yeah.
And so I found what's a good pace for myself. And as far as wrestling goes, man, my matches were short, 5-6 minutes. A lot of times I tried to do tag team matches, so I didn't have to be in there the whole time. And so, yeah, I definitely have listened to my body. But he said, man, you're a miracle. He goes, there's nothing that has hindered you that I can see. He said, you just listen to your body and do what you can. Wow. So
I love that.
1% also who just like walk away clean from it, right?
Yeah. Well, but what's cool is the week before. Now looking back, I say we didn't have any signs or symptoms, but the week before that heart attack that happened on Saturday, June 12th, the weekend before, we were wrestling in Missouri. And so we drove all the way back from Missouri on Sunday, all the way back to Texas. And then we get back Sunday night. Well, my daughter's graduation gift, we were going to fly her out to California. So we get up and leave at 4 a.m. We're in California all week long. How come I didn't have a heart attack on the plane? And I did notice while we were doing some hiking and stuff out in California, so I noticed I was a little winded. I just took a second just to catch my breath, but just went on. And so it didn't happen on the plane coming back on Thursday. I mean, God was just.
But that was like the only sign though.
That was it. I just had
winded a little bit,
just a little winded while we were walking one day,
wow.
and that was it. But I mean, think about it. I mean, all that time in Missouri, coming back through Oklahoma, then flying out to California, flying back.
No kidding.
And it happened.
And it happens at your house.
At my house.
Yeah. Wow, man, incredible.
So those steps were definitely ordered.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Wow. So let's talk wrestling.
Wrestling.
So you've been a fan of wrestling the majority of your life.
Crazy.
Are you from Texas?
Right here in Mesquite.
So the Vaughn Erics played a big role in this.
So I was not a huge wrestling fan growing up.
Oh, you weren't?
Crazy. My friends were. I knew what was going on. I watched it and stuff, but probably about high school was before I really started. I'll watch some wrestling, and I started watching a little more. And then my senior year of high school, we're talking the late 80s here, a bunch of us seniors, I'm at lunch one day at school, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we went to the Sportatorium Friday night. It was the greatest thing. We got to get a group and go." So we started going. And luckily, the spring of my senior year, we started going every Friday night because we were kind of done with football and basketball.
That was the thing to do in the area, man.
Oh my gosh. And we would get there early so we could get down there close. And this is a cool story. So one night, Kerry Von Erich and Terry Bam Bam Gordy of the Freebirds, they're fighting up the aisle. And they are just, there's no air conditioner in there. And it's hot. Everybody's sweating. So I'm sitting on the corner on the aisle where they come up and down. And so Kerry punches Gordy and he falls into my lap and he is laying back on me. And then Kerry has him by the hair and he is just laying him in. And I'm soaked with his sweat all over me. Okay. So that's 1988. So fast forward to 1999. So my second match I ever wrestled was at Emory Raines High School, and it was a summer show, and Terry Gordy is the main event.
Oh, cool.
11 years later.
In 1999.
So 11 years later.
Yep.
And so I go out, I wrestled the first match because I'm brand new. So I come back in and the promoter says, hey, make sure you go back there and, introduce yourself and it's the thing to do and meet everybody. So I go back here and he's bent over and he's he's lacing up his boots. He's not even looking. He's got that mane of hair hanging down, and he says, and I was so excited. I said, hey, Mr. Gordy, I said, I'm Rob Vaughn. I'm a new wrestler. And I said, man, I ran into you 11 years ago at the Sportatorium. I was telling him the story. He never even looked up. He kept lacing his boots. He was like, cool story, kid.
Cool story, kid.
Move on, boy.
I just turned around, walked off. My heart was broken. I was like,
man.
I was so excited to tell him that story.
Yeah.
The worst.
But you know what, though? Like, it's an awesome testament of your faith that you were able to get into that industry. And even now, like when you established the CWF, because a lot of those guys have a dark path, a real dark path, and him even. And maybe I think 99, I think he had already gone through a lot, right? So that's awesome testimony to you and your faith. But so late 80s, Texas, Sportatorium, the Vaughn Erics, you're into wrestling, which takes you into this new interest that you have. So tell us about the Christian Wrestling Federation.
What was the draw like also? I mean, what was it that attracted you?
Yeah.
Just being an athlete, I played multiple sports growing up, ended up playing college football and just being an athlete. I don't know. There's something about wrestling, just that combat one-on-one, type of
that energy.
Yes. I like that. And the showmanship, and so I didn't know I had that in me. A lot of guys don't until they really get started into wrestling. Then they'll figure out, wow, man, I've got this whole nother personality,
Yeah.
And you just like The Rock. The Rock was horrible with his promos and stuff when he was and he had the wrong gimmick. But when he found it, look what happened, man. He just blossomed, and it went on to lead to many different things. So that's kind of was my attraction. And so I'd started in 99. I went through about 8 months of it, just traveling around doing independent shows around Texas. And then all of a sudden it was about August of 99. I'm just like, oh man, I said, I'm not really enjoying this as much as I thought I would. It takes up a lot of time. And so I was in San Antonio staying with some friends, and Ron, the husband, he said, man, tell me all about wrestling. How's that going? I was just telling him all these reasons why I don't think I'm going to do it anymore, and this and that. And, 8-year-olds flipping me the bird and, wrestlers in the back that are drinking and getting high. And I said, and he said, man, you need to make a ministry out of this. And I remember laughing at him. I remember going, really? And so
because nobody else at that time was even thinking like that, right?
No. And so driving all the way back from San Antonio to Dallas, it wouldn't leave my mind. And I got back and it wouldn't leave my mind. So I started praying about, Lord, if you want me to do something with this, show me, because I have no idea what this would look like. And so, of course, the first year was very different from, the next several years.
Yeah.
And so, but that's kind of how we got started. I said, all right, Lord, I'm here. I'm willing. Show me what to do. Find me the wrestlers. And that's how we got started with CWF.
That's really cool, man. Wow.
And so, other than the obvious, as it being a Christian federation, what makes it different than a lot of the mainstream?
Everybody advertises family-friendly shows and stuff, but it's not just a family-friendly show; it's a kingdom-friendly show. We always strove to, share real testimonies and be real people, because, think about it. I mean, we all have our heroes in sports, whether it's Jordan or LeBron or whoever it is. When you like those people, you tend to listen to them, what they have to say and stuff.
Yeah.
And so when a kid or a person comes to our show and they look up there and they have a connection with you in the ring, and then they're going to listen to what you have to say, whether it's sharing your testimony or sharing a gospel presentation, and they're really open. And I think the Holy Spirit really opens that up to people. And at the end, we followed up with an invitation. So I got spoiled. I'm gonna lie. The first night we ever did a show was at a church in Mesquite, and the very first night, 700. It was a youth minister that was trying to get all these youth and get their friends to come. Over 700 showed up the first night, and 30 of them came forward and got saved.
Wow!
And I was like, "Oh, this is easy. Oh man, this is great." And of course, it was not that easy. But that was our first night, and so we knew we were kind of on to something after that.
That's awesome. I was just about to ask you, what was the most powerful testimony you've seen so far? Would that be one, or have you seen it?
That's been one that got us started.
Yeah.
It got the ball rolling. I think God gave us a lot of success in the beginning to realize, hey, this is not going to be easy, but I'm gonna show you what it can be if you will just listen to me and stay faithful. And He did. And we have just seen. I mean, I've seen signs, miracles, and wonders all over the world. In all the foreign countries we've traveled to, 38 states. We've done over 1,100 events. We've seen over 100,000 people give their lives to Christ at these events. And I was talking with Phil, my buddy. He's been with me over 20 years doing this, and we're doing another show together. And Phil said, he goes, man, I can't wait till we get to heaven and see the ripple effect that this has had. Because we have seen what we've seen up front, but I want to see the ripple effect that it's had. And I said, man, that's exciting.
That is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I've been to several of those events, took my kids. They loved it before you retired. Really cool. I got to see it firsthand. The kids loved it.
I've never been to one, man.
It
sounds interesting.
It's so fun. And to see the kids like,
I know. I need to.
Yeah, it's great to see the kids cheering and really into it. And then after each event, coming out and, praying with everybody and letting it be
That's
open.
what happens?
The wrestlers will come out and meet all the kids and sit with them. And if anybody has any questions or prayer requests or, it's been awesome to see. It's really cool, really different.
So yeah, we train all the guys to be able to do that, to go and minister and listen and pray. And, and if it's a newer person that doesn't feel comfortable, we'll send them with another experienced guy out there. But yeah, that's one of the things, because, a lot of times there's been so many of these over the years. A lot of times it may be somebody like, they call it a Christian event or whatever. They may have one or two guys that just use a bunch of local wrestlers or something.
Yeah.
But we try to train our guys to know. I mean, and it's cool to see these guys get discipled, and they come in, they're all about the wrestling, and then 2 or 3 years later, they're all about the ministry.
That's awesome.
And the wrestling is just something I get to do.
Yeah.
So how did you train them or encourage them to be able to honor God and to be able to help plant these seeds?
That's a good question. To be able to train them and is to model it.
Oh,
and to
love
be,
that.
to be the example for them.
Yeah.
Because when they come in, and I ain't gonna lie, there's been guys come in, bad language. It's just natural. Second nature comes out.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you start seeing that go decreasing and going away. And then you start hearing stories about, and they walk in, their Bible still looks brand new. It's never been opened, and all of a sudden we're starting to show them some ways and some resources to use to get into the Word, just ease into it, because some of them come in, they're like, all right, I'm going to jump in read a chapter a day and stuff. Man, let's slow your roll and let's start slow. But it's cool to see God take over that transformation. But we just have tried to be examples and help them. And of course, everybody's different. Everybody learns different. And so we try to find what works best for them and then just encourage them. And like I said, Phil's been with me all these years, and Phil is an incredible man of God. I mean, he those guys look up to him, they listen to him, and he has just been a super encourager, and he's still doing it to this day.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Lead by example. Simple stuff we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
There's simple basics of health and your spiritual health, and it's just,
we just complicate
it. We have a tendency to overcomplicate.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's easy. It's been here. It's worked for thousands of years. And here we are trying to get in and change it around and tweak it. Christian Wrestling Federation, January 14th, 2023. Now, is this you, Rob?
No.
see. Okay.
No, that's just another.
This is just a show.
Yeah.
Okay.
A show there.
Is this is like staged?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I never knew it was like the wrestling stuff.
How long
Always
does
kinda
it
like-
take? How long does it take to choreograph a match?
Well, what makes us different is that we met on Monday nights. We trained together in the ring, and then we did our Bible study together. And so when you're working with those guys, like those guys have probably done that match 200 times right there. And so they work together. They know. And so that's what made it more believable, made it easier to work with guys, because it's a little more difficult if you go to an indie show and you walk in the room and I'm like, hey, I'm Rob, hey, I'm Evan, and don't know anything about the person.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and connect and put on a match,
Sure.
and make it believable.
Sure.
Whereas a lot of times places we would go, people don't know us. They don't know us, and so that way they're like, man, these guys are good. They work well together.
How do you decide who wins?
I was just about to ask that.
It depends on the story, what story you're trying to tell that night, and we do have a typical people that are, heels and then the faces, the good guys. And so it just depends on what story you're trying to come across with that night. A lot of times when we go to church and stuff, they will have a theme for the night, and we'll use some scripture and try to match up the matches
Gotcha.
to coordinate with their theme for the night.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever get any kickback from parents who were concerned about violence?
You know, in the
or anything?
beginning, we used to. People were like, "Oh, y'all are just promoting violence. I can't believe these churches having you guys promoting
I'll
violence."
bet.
You know, it first couple of years, but it really kind of went away after
Yeah.
that. You know, and because we're not in there with scantily clad women. We're not crushing each other with chairs and stuff. Now, believe me, stuff does happen. You know, it does.
Been hit a time or two with a chair, but
you do
Get caught up in the moment.
Yeah. I've been hit with a cage door before and split me open. And
whoa, seriously?
Oh yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
really?
And it was bad. Of course, the crowd was got bloodthirsty after that.
So,
They're like,
so things like that was planned, but not actually planned, kind of thing.
right?
Like,
No, that was not.
you were going to get hit, or no?
I was going to get hit, but I wasn't expecting that.
You weren't.
Well, that's a lot of things. A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, wrestling's fake." Well, it's predetermined, but when you're getting hit upside the head or you're getting thrown down, that's all real. It feels real. I mean, it's not like to the extreme, but things happen. I mean, have you ever? It's like I equate it to this. You ever horsed around with your buddy? You're not trying to hurt each other, but you're horsing around and you get hurt. Things happen. You get cut, you get banged up, you get dropped the wrong way. If you listen to these wrestlers, man, their bodies are riddled with injuries.
Well, in 2003, I missed 8 months of that year. We were wrestling an outdoor event, and it was hot. We're soaking wet sweat, and I was big. I was probably pushing around 300 pounds in, and a guy goes to scoop slam me, and so my head's down here and he's holding me up here, and as he scoop slams me, I slid right off his fingers. Sweat, I just slid right, and I went down so fast because I weighed so much. I could not get my hand down in time, so I landed on top of my head.
Dear
all
goodness.
300 pounds came down just like this on top of and I laid there, and I thought my neck broke, and I was able to move, and I got out. But anyway, I missed 8 months.
Was that during a show?
Right in the middle of a show.
Oh man!
Yeah. So you finish the match.
Wow.
It's weird. You have this different gear where you finish. I don't care if you're hurt, injured, beat all the people. You finish the match and walk out of the ring, or somebody helps you out, and then you get to the back and collapse. And it's just crazy how your body does that. Body is just such an amazing thing.
Oh man, it totally is. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I like to watch wrestling, but I don't want to get in the ring. I mean, because of those things. So, Rob, you're a very busy man. You retired from wrestling for now, but you got a lot of irons in the fire. You got a beautiful family. How do you balance everything while staying, by prioritizing your family and also like your ministry?
That's a great question, because it's funny, growing up, and a lot of my friends did. I saw this, and even in my own family, where dad went off to work, he was gone all day, and then hopefully he'd make it home in time to come to your practice or your game or something like that.
Yep.
And so nowadays, I really, and we've always tried to do this, and being teachers and doing ministry and having some of that freedom from the schedule of teaching, summers off and holidays and stuff like that. And getting out early in the afternoon, but I've always coached and stuff. And so I've had different schedules. So to say all that is, you've got to be able to mix with our family, be able to mix in family with work and during those times. And so it's been it's just kind of fine. And it's different seasons of life, I mean, there's times where your work is busier and you can't get away as much. And there's times when it's more of where you can make everything and attend everything. And so there was one week when I was, when the kids were all in school, and even Rock was a little bitty guy. I was coaching varsity girls basketball. That one week, between me coaching and all the kids playing, Beth attended 11 games that week.
Wow.
And Monday through Saturday, she went to 11 games that we had that week. But you find that balance, and if you've got good people around you that you work with and stuff that will allow you to be a family man and say, hey man, I'm going to cut out early and go catch my kids this or that, whatever they're doing, and I'll come back and finish up some work tonight, when I get home, or if you can find that balance, man, that way the kids know that you're going to show up.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah.
I struggled a lot in my early years trying to build a business to find that balance. I missed out on some things.
Yeah. I did too. I did too.
By the grace of God, I've rearranged my priorities and really put into perspective for me. Like, yes, we are called to work as husbands and fathers. We are called to be the leader of our family, and we need to be able to provide. And these all things are good and great, but also we can't store up these treasures here on earth. We need to store them up in heaven, where rust and moths and robbers can't come and destroy and take away there. It's everlasting. So the time that we have here on earth is very valuable, and it plays a big role in how we shape our families and our kids, which is important. And I'm, by the grace of God, I'm thankful that I was able to realize it. Also, that being said, with our spouses, as the husband and the father of the house, it's our role to be able to lead, but we can't do that without our spouse. Our spouses are called to be helpers and supporters, and you have an awesome wife. How has she played a role in helping you through all these years do this?
We're a blended family. And so Beth came along in year 12 of the CWF. And so things have been great. I mean, we had built this ministry to where we were wanting it to go. But we always say when Beth came along, it enhanced the ministry, because at all the local shows, she's the first one you see when you come in the door.
She is. Yep. I've seen it.
She's got that great personality that just makes you feel warm and welcome. And when the wrestlers would come stay with us, we'd bring the out of town guys in for a weekend show or something. They all stayed up all night talking to her. They didn't care about talking to me. They wanted to eat her cooking. They wanted to talk to her, hang out with our kids. I mean, it just became a family, and she created that atmosphere. Because I was a little more, being the leader, I don't know, they say I was a little more gruff, a little more, but she had that softness that brought everybody in.
Perfect compliment.
And the people that come to our shows, it really became a big family. People that would come back, it became a family. Give you one great example. So last October, we had a show. It was an big event in Asheboro, North Carolina. So I used all my North Carolina guys out there. Then me and Beth flew out there. So we get to the gym, we walk in, and the guys already gotten there. They already set the ring up. Everything was ready to go. We walk in, and here they see us come walking in. They all come running over. And we haven't seen these guys in several months. And they all come running over, run right past me. They all go mob Beth. But this is the way it should be,
Yep.
She's an awesome lady. She is.
Man, I want to ask you, just in your mind and from what you guys have seen, what does somebody get from attending a Christian wrestling event in addition to or beside something like just a regular church event?
Well, think about wrestling. It's been around for a while now, and it just keeps attracting the next generation and the next generation. Yeah, wrestling looks a lot different nowadays than it did when we grew up watching it in the Vaughn era or whatever. But it just keeps growing a new generation of followers, and now it's all different because it's all stream. You can get it, you can pull it up right away now. You don't have to wait till next Friday night to go to the Sportatorium to see the next show. And so when they come to an event, they're going to. That's why we train together and try to use guys that are phenomenal athletes, because we want to be believable. If it's just a bunch of big guys rolling around out there and not doing much, it's anybody can do that.
Yeah.
And so we want to be believable. We're like, man, this guy ain't no different, right? Much different than people I see on TV. And we've had some guys go from us to TV and have wrestled big time. And then some guys that have been at big time, and then after they got released, came down and wrestled for us.
Because once you're in that community, you pretty much stay in that community. It's all crossed.
You are. And nowadays with social media and the way you can communicate, you know who those people are, or pretty immediately. So, but yeah, they're going to get a gospel presentation. You're going to get a family-friendly show. And I can't tell you how many like teenage, early 20 people that said, man, I've really been thinking about ending my life. And a friend invited me to come tonight. And I was just like, all right, I'll go. Just the distraction from my mind, I'll go. And then they heard a message, they heard a testimony, and they came up and we prayed with them. And they said they feel like they have hope now in Jesus. And so we've done some follow up with them and stuff. So, man, I've had numerous stories. I need to write a book. So I need to.
Yeah, you do.
All the stories, all the places we've been, all the God stories, the miracles, and it's been amazing.
That's awesome. So, what advice could you give somebody who's struggling, say in their faith or their health or just finding a purpose here on life? Because a lot of people do. Yep. We all do. I do. We go through seasons, and time is a very valuable commodity that we can't get back. And you've experienced that firsthand. What advice do you have to somebody like this?
Tell somebody. I know that tends to bring a lot of maybe shame or embarrassment on yourself when you're struggling. You don't want to let somebody else know, because, if the social media world, everybody looks like everything's great and everything's perfect, and it's not. And there are real struggles out there. And so it's tell somebody. And Phil, he's kind of my next steps pastor. And he is great at telling people, hey, just because you got saved or just because you're doing this, it's not over. This is what you need to do. And that's one of the things he always says is we have to stay in community and communication with people. because we are not meant
Love that.
we are not meant to do this by ourselves.
Don't put yourself on an island.
Because what happens is when Satan loves to separate
Mhm.
you from the herd, and he wants you to, because when he does, he's got you.
Yeah.
He's got you right here first,
Yeah.
and then the other stuff takes over.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have community. And so even if you're struggling, and just like I was so proud of some former classmates that reached out to me after they saw my story and said, "Man, I'm struggling, man. Can you help me?" Man,
Yeah.
I said, that is the biggest step you're ever going to take right there.
Amen.
Just getting in touch with me. Now we can do something. Now you got me in your corner,
Yeah.
and now you got Beth in your corner. Now we are going to help get you through this.
Yeah.
That's
I love
awesome,
that.
man. Hey, I want to ask you, do you feel like your purpose or your mission in life has changed since the heart attack?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit earlier, and I just feel like I have less of a filter than I used to have.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I would see people or see something, and I may be hesitant to say something, but at this
Like
point,
to witness or to
witness or to bring up something about my story or my faith, and I have no filter anymore, because now I almost crossed over. Yeah, I would have gone to heaven, and that's going to be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But God left me here for a reason.
Yeah.
He left me behind here to continue to minister and to do it at now he says there's nothing hindering you.
Yeah.
So that's just it, right? It's like the path hasn't changed, but the intensity's changed. Maybe.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good, Evan.
Okay.
Yeah. The path hasn't changed, but the intensity.
Yeah.
Because there's been and it's not in the news a lot, which is sad, but if you follow certain pages or outlets, there's Christians that are still being persecuted across the world.
Oh, there's a ton of stuff.
And there's a lot going on in Africa and the Middle East right now in some areas. But in America, we don't face persecution like these other Christians do. And so that then breeds this watered down mindset of, oh, I'm afraid to bring this up because I don't want to offend this person. And then if you do and you offend them, well, that's kind of like the extent of our persecution here. But that's enough to really keep us quiet and scare us. And I think that what you're saying is awesome, and I agree with it. And I think that a lot of people, you don't have to go through almost dying
Sure.
to get this mindset. I think that your testimony is an encouragement for everybody to sit here and think, well, what are we going to do with these minutes that we have here on earth? And Mark Russo, our guest that we had yesterday, I love how he said that.
Yeah.
There's like 41 million minutes, and if you live to average to be about 75, 76 years old, how are you going to use these minutes wisely to impact the kingdom? So I love that. So, I mean, I just hope that a lot of people can hear this and find encouragement that you could do it now.
Exactly.
What did you say? You can change the intensity now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things I used to preach from the ring. I said, "Have you ever been a graveyard? Look at the headstone. You see the date they were born. You see the date they died. But right now, you are the dash.
You're in the middle.
What are you doing with your dash?
What are you doing with your dash? That's a tattoo.
What are you doing with your
dude.
dash?
I'm getting that tattoo. What are you doing with the dash? Yeah.
You got maybe some room right there for a dash.
I want to put it so I can remember it. I love that. What are you doing with the dash?
Yeah. Because when people are standing there in front of that headstone at your funeral or come back to visit or whatever, they're gonna remember. It's the dash. It's not, I don't know if anybody will remember the day you were born or maybe when you die, but that dash would.
Yeah, that's the life right there.
That's life.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Coach, I love calling you Coach Vaughn.
That's all right. Man.
Before we land the plane, let's take the opportunity. This is your opportunity to talk about anything you want to talk about, anything that's on your heart, anything that you think that somebody needs to hear. If you got it, throw it out there on the table.
Well, we were just talking about how many minutes we have in life and how many hours we have in a day, and I'm just saying use it to the max because we are not guaranteed another day, as I almost found out. And so I would hate to regret is the biggest thing you could live with, and looking back saying. Because once you reach a threshold of a certain age, you're like, wow, my best years are behind me. Did I do what I wanted to when I was younger as far as, accomplishing whether it was goals or ministry goals or whatever? And so both Phil and I have a mentor who is 80 years old, and he did not get saved till he was 55. Well, guys, I'm going to be 55 in a couple of weeks. Okay, I can't imagine right now starting my ministry at my age and all that I would have missed out on all these years. And so he didn't start till he was 55. But holy cow, has he made up for time?
That intensity,
This dude is. He goes, I mean, the mission trips. I don't care if he's checking out at Walmart. It doesn't matter what he's doing. He realized he wasted a lot of years, and it is awesome to see what he has done. And he has been one of me and Phil's spiritual leaders for years, because this guy it's insane.
Yeah. There's an importance with having a spiritual leader, having a mentor. I said yesterday, I have one that's industry specific for my business. I have just like an overall like good Christian mentor who can just help me with my life, and just maybe if I just need to talk to somebody, and then like a spiritual mentor who can just, you have to. It's that community and that accountability, and somebody who can call me out when I need to, because that's what a brother really does.
It does.
You know, when you have somebody that you truly love, or they truly love you, they're going to help you, and they're going to be able to step in and to help you really think in that moment. And if you don't have those individuals, it's kind of like what you said, the enemy likes to whisper lies to you to isolate yourself. And I always think about that, like on the National Geographic, whenever you have the water buffalo or the gazelle that stepped away from the herd, then the crocodile or the lion comes and grabs that one, because you're stronger in numbers in that community.
That's right.
For us, it's our family, it's our Christian community, it's our life group, it's our church, it's our core inner circle, which might only be 2 people, but we're like-minded, we're spiritually yoked, and I know I can count on them if I needed help or advice, or if I need to be called out on my bull crap. But you have to have that community, because if you don't, you're out there, you're just by yourself.
Absolutely.
That's good.
The enemy is out there as a lion to devour.
That's right.
So that's awesome. That's very important to have those mentors.
Exactly. And don't be ashamed to ask somebody. I think it's a big part of it. People feel like, I can't get my crap together, or I don't feel like I need to, feel like I don't want somebody to take on my burdens or something. But,
or even our culture as like men, we don't talk. We've been bred to not talk about our problems.
Exactly. You're right.
You don't talk about the family. You keep it within the family. You don't talk about your problems. You're a manly man. And I think that that's the worst facade we could have ever been lied about.
Yeah, right. We isolate. Rob, how can people get a hold of you?
Oh my gosh.
How can they find you?
We're on social media. Probably our biggest presence is Instagram and Facebook page.
Okay.
Just Rob Vaughn. And we started a new YouTube channel, my wife and I, where we're, because of the story of the night of my heart attack and how I recovered.
Yeah.
We have met, we speak at a lot of churches and conferences now, and we have met so many people who have incredible God stories about overcoming addiction, overcoming loss, overcoming illness and stuff like that. So we put together this show to share their stories, because
it's awesome.
It's more than just me sitting here telling. I want more people need to hear, and so they need to hear their stories. So we put together a YouTube channel. It's called My Story with Rob and Beth Vaughn, and it's about a 20-minute show. And we're in our first season right now. And all it is having some awesome people come on and tell the stories of what they've overcome, what God has done in their life. And man, it's been cool. It has led people to the Lord already. It has. It has led like-minded people that said, "Oh my gosh, something similar like that's happened to me. I didn't know that there was somebody else out there."
Man, that's awesome.
So cool, man. So
I love that. So we'll put that in the description. We'll put a link to that in the description so you can find Rob's podcast. And guys, if you've liked what you heard today, if there's somebody you think that needs to hear this, share it, like it, subscribe. Help us get this out there and plant these God seeds. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.